February 23 also, when India banned the rice exports, the prices in the international market has risen. So the dotted line indicates the time when we imposed the export ban. So international price in countries like Vietnam, Thailand have risen. So that is to say that we are a country of such a big scale which is capable of influencing the international prices. Then impact of high international food prices. So here 1% shock in international food price will result in 0.3% increase in domestic food prices. So approximately a year later. So that is very prominent, particularly in lower income countries. So whenever there is a shock, the international food prices, it has got implication for domestic market. Then similarly the energy prices. So here also oil and gas prices is depicted in this graph, and we are more concerned with oil, which is shown in this green graph. So international oil prices nearly doubled between January 20 and March 22 due to supply shocks, pandemic and Ukraine war like kind of things. So global energy price also have moderated from last year. That is that you can see from May 22 onwards, it is started declining, but still higher than the initial levels. So there is interconnectedness between food and energy prices. So that means whenever there is a increase in energy prices, that is spilled over to food markets. A high energy price translates into increased food production costs. So some analysis by the World Bank and IMF using some rigorous econometric analysis shows 10% increase in fertilizer price or 10% increase in global oil price results in 2% increase in global cereal prices after 3 quarters. So another important pass-through is via transportation and distribution costs. So high energy price also have some impact on food prices and food markets. Then consequences. So we have seen how the food and energy prices are increasing in the last year, and it is still continuing. So what could be its consequences? So first and foremost is, so the impact of high food and energy prices is on inflation, because there was rise in inflation across most of the G20 economies in 2022, mainly due to high price of food and energy, and also significant share of food and energy in their consumption basket. So most of the lesser developed countries, individuals have higher share of their income for food and energy. Then consequences of this high food and energy prices, first of all, food insecurity. The number of people facing acute food insecurity doubled between 2016 and 22. So high food prices impacted the net food importing countries the most. So G20 has several types of countries. Some are producing, some are importing, consuming countries. So its impact is most on the net importing countries. So given that poor people spend larger share of their income on food, high food prices affect more vulnerable segments. Then second important consequence is undernourishment. So in this graph, the right extreme, you can see the recent years, the graph is picking up. The number of undernourished people increased by more than 150 million between 2019 and 21 globally because of COVID and other pandemic and other issues. Then contraction of standard of living. So inflation will definitely strain the household budgets. So for the benefit of other students from science background, I wish to say inflation simply means sustained increase in prices of articles. So when there is increase in prices of food and energy, which is the maximum share in their consumption basket, it will definitely strain the household budgets. So this resulted in contraction of real living standards. So when you have most of your money on food and other energy, then other things like education, how maybe health and other issues, you have less to spend, and this resulting in contraction of the living standards. So then the very important thing is all of this result in contraction in economic growth. High energy prices reduced global growth by 0.5% in 2022. These are all estimates by World Bank and IMF through some rigorous, robust econometric methods. The same shocks should reduce global growth by 0.3% in 2023 if prices remain high throughout 2022 and into 2023. This is from some reports. So food insecurity and poverty worsens labor productivity. So this is very, very important point. So when you have undernourishment and other things, it also impacts labor productivity, which adversely affect economic growth. Then indirect impacts of food and energy insecurity is persistent food and energy insecurity may fuel unrest in societies, which is an indirect risk for economic growth. IMF estimates the post-social unrest, GDP drops 1%. If there is some unrest, and then the GDP, post this social issues, GDP lost by 1%. High inflation leads to hiking of interest rates and higher borrowing costs and adverse impact on growth. Food insecurity can be detrimental to growth in longer term, with malnourishment weighing human capital development and productivity. Then this section actually deals with how the G20 members dealt with these high food prices and energy prices. Actually, our presidency, they have sent this questionnaires to all the G20 member countries, and their response is tabulated in this section. And impact of food and energy insecurity, G20 experiences most significant macroeconomic impact of high food and energy prices are inflation. So you can say first is inflation, balance of payment, impact on public finance, economic growth and consumption. So inflation is one of the important area, like balance of payment problem, also one of the important area when there is high food prices and energy prices. Then monetary policy responses. So what kind of policy response were taken by our G20 members? To control inflation, a tighter monetary policy has been followed in most economies. Monetary policy responses largely consist of rising short-term rates, so policy rate hike. Very often you can see in newspapers, Reserve Bank hiked the CLR so much points, etc. So that is what we mean by policy rate hike. Then open market operations by selling bonds and other things. Then asset purchase reversal. So these are all some of the measures to deal with food and high food and energy prices in the monetary sphere. Then fiscal policy responses. Fiscal policy responses are different for energy price hike, and it also different for food prices. For energy price hike, they resort to fiscal policy. That is basically monetary policy is related to Reserve Bank of India actions and operations. Fiscal policy related to the government's taxation and other issues. So energy prices, the fiscal policy measures include subsidies, tariff, maneuvering with the tariffs, cash transfers, social security and welfare programs, vouchers and disclosures, price regulation and others. These are all the fiscal policy measures to control energy prices. Coming to food prices, we resort to subsidies, cash transfers, tariffs, vouchers and discounts, social welfare and others. So elevated food and energy prices drive inflation and limit fiscal spaces. So when there is inflation, because these are all not a zero-sum game where monetary policy and fiscal policy, when you have too much of interest rate hikes and other things, it actually limits the scope for monetary policy, fiscal policy actions. Most G20 countries resorted to targeted fiscal measures like subsidies, tax reliefs, cash transfers, etc. to offset the impact of high food and energy prices. So the difficulty of balancing fiscal assistance to vulnerable population and maintaining medium-term fiscal sustainability was highlighted by many members. So there is a trade-off between these two which has to be very carefully dealt. Then coming to other measures to deal with the food and energy prices, structural measures. Structural measures for energy include infrastructure. So infrastructure here actually in G20, lot of discussions going on energy transition from coal-based energy to renewable energy. So that is basically related to infrastructure. Then market reforms, deregulation, innovation. Innovation is very, very important for this, one of the very important structural measures. Coming to structural reforms to food insecurity, again innovation in agricultural technology, then infrastructure, and also market reforms and deregulation. These are all some of the structural measures. So in economics we used to say a permanent way of addressing these issues is structural changes or structural reforms. G20 as a major bloc, economic bloc, they could definitely contribute in this direction. Then external sector policies, basically trade. Trade measures dominated efforts on the external front to combat food and energy shocks. So most of the countries know, emerging economies, they resorted to these trade measures and also exchange rate manipulation for addressing these higher prices in food and energy markets. Then key takeaways on policy actions from the G20 experience include synchronized monetary policy. Coordinated action among the G20 countries, tightening across G20 economies has helped cool demand and inflationary pressures. In the last 2 years, in the earlier graph, we have seen it is coming down. That is because the synchronized action by the various G20 countries. Then gradual tightening of fiscal policy by replacing broad-based measures with targeted measures. So we have to give these targeted measures to those who are vulnerable and really needy to protect the vulnerable section and reduce the pressure on monetary policy. Then diversifying food and energy sources and addressing structural issues are critical to build resilience against future crises. Then replenishment of International Fund for Agriculture Development. It is a UN organization, around 177 member countries are there. They actually, wherever there is food insecurity, higher prices of food, they specifically intervene in those countries to protect the vulnerable section. But they are in need of funds. So the G20 countries also have developed countries. They can replenish the funds of IFAD. Then G20 reaffirmed the importance of rule-based, non-discriminatory, fair, open, inclusive, sustainable and transparent multilateral trading system. So just whatever I have discussed so far, I will conclude in this one slide. So macroeconomic impact of food and energy security. So international food price leads to spillover to domestic food prices. Similarly, international energy price leads to domestic energy prices. Domestic energy price have an impact on domestic food prices. So these both the domestic food prices and energy price lead to high inflation, which actually impact food insecurity, undernourishment, standard of living, global growth, and also several indirect impacts. Then how to manage this high food and energy security. So we have monetary policy interventions, fiscal policy interventions, structural interventions, and international trade interventions. So what G20 actions for mitigating food and energy security? So synchronized monetary policy actions, multilateral trading system, and replenishment of IFAD resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving forward, we invite Registrar, Periyar University, to speak on harnessing artificial intelligence responsibility for good and for all.
the most respected Honorable Chancellor, Governor, Chancellor Periyar University, the most respected and Honorable Vice Chancellor of Periyar University, and dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. Good evening to one and all present here. I am very happy to present on harnessing artificial intelligence, responsibility for good and for all. Before going into the artificial intelligence, let me take human intelligence. The human intelligence is mental quality. All of us knows that. And this consists of the abilities to learn from experience. That is most important for artificial intelligence. So the ability to learn from experience where data are playing vital role in artificial intelligence. And add to new situations. And also it may be understand and handle abstract concepts and use knowledge to control an environment. So these are the some of the important things under comes under mental quality for human intelligence. But whereas if you go into the artificial intelligence, it refers to a technique that enables machines to mimic the human behavior. To mimic the human behavior, we must give lot of data, and this responsible AI is the practice of building and deploying AI, practice of building or designing the system. That is most important. And also deployment is also most important. Deploying AI solutions with uncompromising commitment to user trust and safety. So AI can improve on past iterations and become smarter and more aware, allowing it to improve its capabilities and knowledge. Knowledge is nothing but here set of patterns, extracting the patterns from the data that constitute the knowledge for computer. So with artificial intelligence, machines perform cognitive functions like learning, planning, reasoning, decision making, and problem solving. And here, what is the responsible artificial intelligence? Means it should create an unparalleled opportunity for business and organizations, allowing them to process and make decisions based on massive amount of data with an eye on improving outcomes in the process. The various stages of adoption of responsible artificial intelligence are mainly the concept. So there are 4 stages. Number 1 is concept, guideline, process, and culture. So here the ability of machines to perform task responsibility in an intelligence fashion without supervision is known as concept. For example, one can define the system, its objectives and problems. If you go into the guideline, where aligning the artificial intelligence systems to make them easy to understand and user friendly. Whenever we develop the system must be more user friendly and must be adaptive in nature, and while maintaining the privacy and trust. For example, a well-defined rules and conditions for designing the AI system is most important. Under this process, establishing principles and provides more meaningful and accurate operations within the limits for which the AI systems were designed. So finally, a well-defined or deployed AI system that should be reliable and make to feel good for all. That is most important. Then what are all the requirements of responsible AI? So any reliable artificial intelligence system that constructs upon the huge volume and carefully configured, well selected data among all available. So before this, The AI system has been built in, requires huge volume of data, as I said earlier, that may be any kind of data, maybe text, numerical, image, audio, video, or sensor data, or network data, whatever it may be. It is increase in quantum of data generated at individual level. And by day to day life, billions of data, or we can say information that may be generated by individual level or industry level using various platforms such as social networks, documents, new data generation, etc. Apart from this, data generated, system itself may be generated billions of information by its own, where we can see that the lot of giants like Microsoft, Netflix, Meta, YouTube, etc. The three important V's of responsible artificial intelligence are velocity, variety, and value. So because it ensures not only the quality of data but achieve the basic requirements of reliable artificial intelligence elements in terms of volume, velocity, variety, and value. So because every day we all know that we have been using WhatsApp, and through the WhatsApp and also video, audio, and streaming videos, and also the reels, etc. It is generating huge amount of data with high velocity, and also variety of data we are able to get, like images, voice, then text, and videos, etc. For example, it may generate the volume may be lot of generation and consumption. Once we collect the data, and it has to be cleaned, and it has to be converted into the useful format, then it can be converted into the visualization form, and after converting into that, it can be processed. And the ultimate aim of the data is to convert the money. So it indicates in dollar. So finally, whatever the amount we have, it can be converted into the amount of data. That's why in data mining there is a saying, we are very rich in data but very poor in knowledge. And potential areas of responsible artificial intelligence, almost all domains are utilizing the power of artificial intelligence system, which includes society, environment, technology, and economics. Whereas 33% of automation of IT process, already they have implemented artificial intelligence system. 29% of security and threat detection they have implemented, and in marketing and sales they have implemented around 26%. Financial planning and analysis they have implemented artificial intelligence around 22%. In the case of automation of business process, so because when we are having or repeating the things, it has to be automated. So 28% of automation process, they are utilizing artificial intelligence. And as far as business analytics, or we can say business intelligence, where 26% of automation have been done. In fraud detection, 23% have been used. And also, if you come to the artificial intelligence governance, leading players, already I said the tech giants like Apple, Bosch, Cisco, IBM, Oracle, etc. They have been using for various things like accountability, transparency, privacy, bias, and safety, where this map indicates almost all the leading countries in the globe, they are using or already they have implemented a certain amount of tasks by using artificial intelligence, where we can see that $500 billion of the globe, and as far as Indian market level, the prediction is in the year 2025 maybe $7.8 billion. The rising efforts of tech giants towards improving the access to the artificial intelligence is expected to foster the growth of the global artificial intelligence market during the forecast period, and we can note that the US is, the China is in the first place. They have implemented already deployed artificial intelligence about 58%, and the next one is India, where we have deployed 57%. And the third one is Singapore. And if you come to the growth of artificial intelligence adoption, North America generated more than 36.84% of the market share in 2022, whereas the Asian Pacific market is expected to expand the highest compound annual growth rate of 20.3% from the 2023 to 2032. Based on the technology, the deep learning segment has captured 36.36% market share in 2022, where the deep learning is nothing but the extension of artificial neural network. Artificial neural network will mimic the human brain, where in our human brain approximately 10 to the power 11 neurons at the time of by virtue of birth, but every day number of neurons may be generated and number of neurons may be destroyed, and those neurons where in artificial neural network we can call it as an computing element, and where each neuron is is used for computing. It may receive the information either from the surroundings or from the neighboring neurons, and then as in our human being some chemical reaction may take place, whereas here just it may compute the arithmetic sum of arithmetic with the help of the weight. Weight is nothing but it is playing the vital role, the connection between two neurons. So where this deep learning has been implemented with a lot of hidden layers, that is the most important concept behind this deep learning. And also this, by end of user, this 16.82% of the market share in 2022. Based on this technology, deep learning segment accounted largest market share in 2022. And if you come to end user insights in artificial intelligence market, in 2020, the government of India increased the spend for Digital India to $47 million to boost artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data analytics, cyber security, machine learning, augmented reality, virtual reality, and immersive technology with robotics. The heavy investments by the tech giants in research and development are continuously fueling technological advancements and in various industries, where once if we collect the data, as I said earlier, there may be sometimes we may get the redundancy of data, so the redundancy must be avoided, and then we must select the best data, or the biased data must be eliminated. Once if you eliminate the data, then we can come for processing, and based on the things, the important patterns may be generated with the help of deep learning or some kind of machine learning techniques. And then technological innovations have been always an important part of the majority of industries, and the top global tech giants such as Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, IBM are increasing their investments in the upgradation and development of various applications of artificial intelligence. And next, coming to the best practice of responsible artificial intelligence, where best practice of artificial intelligence includes 4 fundamental processes, which includes avoid discriminatory data generation, avoid biased artificial intelligence design, then build the artificial intelligence system that adopt almost all kind of people, deliver or reach out the artificial intelligence system for all the people. Now all the 4 purposes should be ensures reflect the facts of technical, social, real world senses. And to become successful in any kind of business, we need to accurate collection of data and easy processing, adequate analytics, which further forms the backbone of decision making and is required for vital insights. A population of data bias occurs when survey the wrong people or gather data from the wrong audience. So attempting use data created for one context in another context without retraining the system is likely lead to poor outcomes. So that means if we collect the data from Tamil Nadu, those data cannot be used for other states for certain kinds of, for example, if you want to predict or if you want to predict the lifestyle, or if you want to analyze the food habits, which may not be suitable. And the role of data provenance is playing vital roles because it ensures the reliability and quality of data and is called data provenance. And data chasm is most important because so sometimes when we may use different types of devices to capture the data. Once if you capture the data from one device, those data cannot be processed, or once again if you collect the data by using another device which may not be compatible. So which is also most it should be considered while we are collecting the data. Then there are some use cases. Here we can see that the first one, all parameters are well recognized by the artificial intelligence system. So that is agent, food, heat, tool, place, mode, task, etc. These all parameters are well recognized by the developed artificial intelligence system. So this gives the 100% accuracy. Whereas for the second case, the role okay, but for heat it is not correct because there are some red spots are there. The system identifies wrongly those as heat. So the accuracy is 85.7%. If you come to the third one, where you can see there are two males, but it may identify as a one male, and also some tools are wrongly identified. And if you come to the fourth one, and a lot of parameters are misunderstood. So the percentage is 42.5%. The certain key benefits of artificial intelligence, where we know it can reduce the human error, automates repetitive tasks, as I said, then AI-enabled digital assistants, etc. These are the challenges and conclusion. Just I would like to say one challenge which everyone knows. You may not know the taste of cyanide. Suppose if you want to know the taste of cyanide, how it could be identified? The solution by using AI, so one can construct the artificial tank, so that will be a solution for identifying the taste of cyanide.
Clustering is nothing but grouping of similar kind of items. You heard the original version of me. Now this is my AI version. இதை உருவாக்க AI குளோனிங் தொழில்நுட்பத்தை பயன்படுத்தினேன். இதை உங்களுடன் பகிர்ந்து கொள்வதில் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகிறேன். எனது அவதாரத்தை பல மொழிகளில் பேச வைக்க முடியும். Teper я говорю по-русски. Sekarang saya berbicara di Indonesia. Ora parlo in italiano, Augusto Luis Asgailge. The foreign languages I just spoke in are transcribed through AI cloning technology. AI 테크놀로지의 가능성은 굉장히 오키. AI 기술에 대해서는 아직 탐구해야 할 부분이 많습니다. 원고세쇼 님께쇼 제가 계시에 Thank you. Danke. Bedank. Dakul. Gracias. Nandri.
Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Thank you. We would now like to invite Dr. R. Rengalakshmi, the Director of Eco Technology, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, Chennai, to deliver her experience on driving gender inclusive climate action.
Honorable His Excellency Governor of Tamil Nadu, Chancellor of Periyar University, and respected Vice Chancellor of Periyar University and other dignitaries on the dais, and faculties, students, media and other respected guests. I am honored to deliver the talk, Driving Gender Inclusive Climate Actions as part of the G20 declarations, which emerged during the very detailed discussion among the G20 member countries. So here the main aspects which included the gender equality and empowerment as part of a detailed declaration points. This appeared as a kind of an important cross-cutting element across all other sections which emanated during the discussions. So here the point which we are focusing here is on how we deliver the climate actions. So there are three major points were emerged in the sub-theme. One is driving gender inclusive climate action, that is 66, acknowledging the disproportionate impact of climate change, biodiversity loss, desertification and pollution on women and girls. So these sectoral elements, how it is impacting women and girls, and accelerating climate action. That is, the climate change is keeping more challenges and how it is affecting or compounding the risk which women and girls are facing in their actions. Second one is support and increase how women's participation, their partnership, decision making and leadership in climate change mitigation and adaptation, disaster risk reduction strategies, policy frameworks on environmental issues. There are n number of policies related to environmental issues are coming up, and the forthcoming one is the COP28, where the detailed action plan on climate change is going to be discussed. So in relation to that, the third point which is mentioned under this sub-theme is support gender responsive and environment resilient solutions. So both are combined, including water, sanitation and hygiene, that is part of the WASH solutions to build resilience for the impact of climate change and environmental degradation. So it is a kind of a very comprehensive statement which is affecting women and children in the context of climate change. So here the India's response as part of the G20 declaration immediately after the meeting. One is the role of women and girls as a change makers in climate resilience. Climate resilience actions has been highlighted by Ministry of Women and Child Development. This is one part. And second, as part of the new working group among the ministerial representatives for empowering women, they developed a kind of a committee to foster gender equality and inclusivity. So these two important elements which came out immediately after the meeting. But here to reinstate further, India's collective and unwavering dedication to championing gender equality and empowering all women and girls has now secured a firm place within G20 New Delhi Leadership Declaration in 2023. And here two major elements they have highlighted. One is empowerment, that is women empowerment. Second one is women-led development. So these two things gain traction out of the important discussions. And here the collective decision taken by the Government of India is to be committed to close gender gaps, promote full equity, effective women's participation in the economy as decision makers. So this is a very powerful statement which came out of the discussion, and India is committed to promote the gender equality in all spheres. Before we get into the detailed part, some of the facts related to gender equality help us to understand the context better. The UN Women study predicted, going by the current trends of the progress, by 2030, nearly 8% of the world female population will be living in poverty, extreme poverty, and close to a quarter will experience moderate to severe food insecurity. So this is a very pathetic condition, and how different countries are taking effort to overcome this particular element. And the second one is highlighting the deeply entrenched gender gap in leadership positions. Leadership positions at different levels, starting from the rural women to till the top UN organizations or the highly developed countries, including all G20 countries. The uneven distribution of unpaid care and domestic work between men and women, that is also another important element one need to analyze. And the next important component, as Dr. Ashok mentioned, food insecurity due to several compounding reasons, including the climate risk. Then the final point is again poverty. Here 16 million more women and girls when compared to the total number of men and boys pushed to poverty by mid-century due to climate change. So this shows the importance and intensity of the problem which is posing on the part of the community, that is men, women as well as the children, and how it is disproportionately impacting the life and livelihood of women and children. One is the responsibility, women's responsibility. It is a complex relationship with a close network as well as dependency on the natural environment, and also the household responsibilities that are highly climate sensitive, especially fetching water or fetching firewood, ensuring fodder as well as household food security. So as part of the women's expected roles and responsibility, they play a major role in shaping the environmental issues and also meeting the climate risk. Second important, another point is the gender division of labor. Here within the households as well as at the community level, women spend more time in involving drudgery based work compared to men. And the statistics shows, compared to men, women spend more than 30% of the time in the household work. This is compounded by fewer employment opportunities, poor occupational mobility, as well as the low wage. So these are all the factors which are contributing the gender gap in many dimensions. And the third element is the higher dependence on natural resources, as I said, for their livelihoods, and the limited participation in household as well as the public decision making, and inadequate access to land, which is very essential resource for leading the better livelihoods. The final element is women's burden on unpaid domestic work and care work, especially the elders, livestock as well as children. Caring for these sectors deepen the inequalities in the labor market participation as well as the outcomes. Coming to the detailed part of the rural women as a key agents of transformation of economic, environmental and social change, which are part of the sustainable development which the G20 confirms, or it is facilitating among the countries. The one fact which everyone has to accept, without women there is no agriculture. So that is the fact, and nowadays the men's participation in agriculture is coming down, moving to non-farm sectors. So in this context, if we see 70% of the farming activities are done by women in terms of the percentage per unit of the land as well as the livestock care, it is little more. Yet women are not recognized as farmers, and wages are almost deeply with a high variation. And 75% of the rural women workers are engaged in agriculture. That is, most of them are landless agriculture laborers, and also the operational holding among women is close to 13 to 14%. That is the recent data. Then the land ownership, that is play a key instrument for reducing socioeconomic and gender inequalities at the rural as well as the urban region. Here the disaggregated data availability and the ownership of the asset play a major role in designing the policies as well as other interventions necessary to break the differences. When we come to food systems, in the food systems, as I said earlier, women play a major role and they are part of the marginalized ecosystems, and this is the major livelihood for them. Compared to men, 71% of the women depend on food systems for their primary livelihood, 47% among men. Men are increasingly moving out of non-farm sector, as I informed earlier, and this bring women as a kind of a major manager of the farm rather than contributing as a kind of a labor. So from this perspective, is there any change in the access to productive resources, especially the land, or livestock, or knowledge, technology, credit, market systems? There are n number of productive resources and services. Still, it is going in the name of men. So access for such kind of resources, which is very essential to improve the productivity or to ensure the better livelihood, women couldn't access it. Although there are policies that enable women's empowerment process in agriculture, the existing inequities, especially the social norms, which is affecting women to effectively gain the success from such kind of initiatives. And the FAO 23 reported the gender gap in land productivity, that is between men and women managed farms of the same size, is 24%. So this shows how the difference between the men and women, the gap exists in the agriculture systems. On average, women earn 18.4% less than men in wage employment in agriculture, and this means that women receive 82 cents for every dollar earned by men. So this is another wage gap. The disparity is very high among the communities with whom we are interacting. So coming to the policy space, there are it's a continuum starting with the gender blind policies. In the past, there were many policies were gender blind, but over a period of time, there are changes, and moving to gender neutral, where the interventions are existing distribution of resources. It is considering as a kind of a neutral position, but coming to gender specific, where practically some solutions are given to target women as a kind of an vulnerable element so that they could able to participate in that activities. Then coming to the gender sensitiveness. Even last 2 decades we could able to see some of the policies which are very highly gender sensitive, identifying the factors and processes which are responsible for the gender inequality and try to address those elements. And the final one, which is very essential and all G20 countries aim to follow in future, that is the gender redistributive or transformative policies, wherein women are equally considered as a kind of an citizen, and they get the due share in almost all policy planning as well as the related budgets. So coming to the strategies which is working very well in the Indian or South Asian context or among the G20, there are 6 or 7 major points which are very essential, which is defining the transformative process. One is the skill and knowledge. So how do we ensure the women and girls are getting high quality knowledge as well as the skill which are necessary to improve their economic opportunities and livelihoods. Here there are opportunities, strategies like technical training and access to information and knowledge that we need to redefine according to the context of the women and men as well as for the children, that is female as well as male children. Here the women's technical skill and climate smart technologies, one example, and how entrepreneurship and negotiating skills can be facilitated to act on their own. And here the gender transformative means promoting women as role models to break the barriers. There are n number of cases have come up in this sphere to overcome such strategies working well in the context. And the second important area is access to and control over resources and services. Here we need to see how it can be facilitated. Right now, if we analyze our own context in Tamil Nadu, there are gaps how this access and resources are getting to men and women farmers. Coming to the workloads, again, every one of us very clear that introducing farm machinery and collective labor pattern, how do we ensure? There are machineries coming in, their access and availability is increasing, but how far it is women friendly, how they could able to access very quickly. So these are all challenges associated with the workloads when we bring women as a kind of a productive labor in the context of agriculture production or any other rural development initiatives. These are all some strategies which is working well, that is providing a farmer-centric advisories. Right now the system available for either for agriculture farmers or any other entrepreneurs involved in initiatives, they are not getting individual-centric advisories. That is affecting their production and limiting their capacity to move to the next level. When it comes to the fourth point is the voice and representation, and here how women and girls gain voice and representation both in the household, community as well as the societal level. And in the farming context, there is a better opportunities are now emerging as a kind of farmer collectives, either self-help group federation or in the recent term it is farmer producer organizations. So such kind of opportunities help people to come up, use the collective power to overcome some of the gender inequalities. The fifth one is the access to market and employment opportunities, and here also there are n number of strategies one can define to overcome the challenges which women and girls are facing. The sixth important one is the decision making in the household as well as access to productive resources. The decision making is a process, but it is a key one which is essential for household starting and it moving to the next level of community and the societal level. When it comes to the process, the impact of gender equality from the inequality to equality, it is a process. It's starting with equity first. Equity means it is a justice. So women are on the lower position, so you are giving good strategies or adequate number of strategies to bring her up to the next level so that they will be on par to negotiate or on par to compete. The next important element is women's empowerment, where you can see visible changes. Broaden and deepen social inclusion happens in this space. Coming to the third level of gender transformative, where the changes are sustained to break the social norms or to overcome some of the deeper challenges the society face. So concluding remarks, basically bring change in the women's participation is a sequential process. We are in the one stage, still we need to put more efforts to reach the next level. Then the conducting gender analysis, understanding their access as well as the decision making capacity in the project cycle management or any other interventions which we are bringing as a part of the management. Then the multiple strategies are necessary to make transformative and sustained changes. One strategy may not work, we need to target again and again and with multiple strategies. Then the collective action, because they are voiceless and the negotiation capacity is very less at this point of time. So how collective power can be harnessed, and that needs some kind of a social innovation at the local level and it needs to be continuously facilitated. Then expanding the knowledge access and the skill empowerment. Right now there are many technologies are available to build such kind of knowledge as well as the skill. Then access to data and design policies. Right now the available data sets which are not gender segregated, so that limits our planning in many aspects. But now increasingly the recent collection systems are segregated. It will help us to understand the problems much more clearer so that actions as well as the plans will be made accordingly. Then the policy implementation and nudging support. The one example I should quote here is the Pradhan Mantri PMUY scheme. So in that connections for LPG collections given to almost all households, 99.8%, but when you study the user rate, it is very, very less. It is 47% in the rural and in the urban it is very little higher. So this shows what are all the gaps which are still there and what support is needed for the such households to continuously engage engage or continuously use such facilities. This is just one example, but there are n number of policies like that which is available, but while in practice it needs more support and hand holding. So with that I conclude. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. To conclude, now we invite IQAC Director, Periyar University, Dr. Yohanandan, to highlight the deliberations of G20.
His Excellency, the Governor Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, distinguished dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, and dear participants, good evening. I feel honored and delighted to share with you the key deliberations of today's seminar, which focused on the vital themes outlined in the G20 New Delhi Leaders' Declaration. Today, we engaged in robust discussions on the 14 important sub-themes. Speakers consisting of faculty members from Periyar University, students from Periyar University, academicians from other institutions, and a practicing doctor made presentations. The experts deliberated on the role of educational institutions in shaping individuals for societal transformation. Need for change through disruptive innovation was emphasized. The need for collaborative strategies to address emerging health challenges was discussed. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam was suggested as a strategy, a model for peaceful coexistence, inclusive growth and sustainable development. The deliberations also included economic consequences of climate change and advocating proactive measures to foster sustainable economic growth. Speakers cautioned about natural disasters and suggested ways and means of managing the risks that arise from natural calamities. The role of sustainable infrastructure in mitigating the impact of natural disasters was also stressed upon. Yet another focus area of discussion was circular economy. There was a greater emphasis on breaking away from linear economic models and adopting circular systems that prioritize resource efficiency and waste reduction. It was pointed out that the man-made action impacted negatively on environment. The deliberations also touched upon the detrimental impacts of plastic on ecosystem and proposed strategies for curbing its pervasive presence. Interestingly, we came to know that 5 grams of plastic is consumed by us every week. Addressing the evolving landscape of financial technologies, emphasis was placed on the critical need for robust policies and regulations to govern crypto assets. Speakers also reiterated on the integration of digital technologies to create an inclusive and sustainable ecosystem. While adopting to digital health strategies, it was suggested that privacy and security of the data has to be ensured. There is a need to build a safe and resilient digital infrastructure. Speakers also underscored women's role in food security. 5 pillars of women empowerment, namely education, health, security, finance, and emotions were emphasized. The discussion also outlined the far-reaching consequences of inadequate access to essential resources, emphasizing the urgency of addressing insecurities in food and energy to ensure sustainable and inclusive economic growth. The ethical considerations in artificial intelligence deployment was also stressed upon for responsible development and deployment of artificial intelligence to avoid unintended consequences. The need for inclusive strategies that recognize and address the unique vulnerabilities and strengths of women in the face of environmental challenges was also underlined. This seminar holds immense significance for all stakeholders, particularly for the student participants who represent the future of India. I am sure that the knowledge gained from the seminar will make them key contributors to India's development, foreseeing a future where India leads the world as Viswaguru. Thank you for the opportunity. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Moving forward, Honorable Governor Chancellor will felicitate the speakers of G20 with books. we call Professor K.R. Ashok, former director, Center for Agricultural and Rural Development Studies, Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Coimbatore. Dr. K. Thangavel, Registrar, Senior Professor and Head, Department of Computer Science, Periyar University, Salem. Dr. R. Rengalakshmi, Director, Ecotechnology, MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, Chennai. Dr. B.S. Madhukar, former advisor, NAC, Bengaluru, for delivering speech on delivering quality education. Dr. C. Babu, psychiatrist, Sri Kokulam Hospital, Salem. Dr. K. Jayaraman, Professor and Head, Department of Economics, Periyar University, Salem. Professor A. Ilangovan, former Professor and Head of the Department of Commerce, Periyar University, Salem. Dr. R. Ramesh, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, Periyar University, Salem. Dr. K. Krishna Kumar, Professor and Head, Department of Commerce, Periyar University, Salem. Dr. P. Sanmugavadivu, Professor, Department of Computer Science, the Kantigram Rural Institute, deemed to be University. Dr. P. Nasini, Professor, Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, Periyar University, Salem. Ms. Swati Bharati, student of first year, Master of Library and Information Science, Periyar University, Salem.
We are delighted to invite the children of our university teaching and non-teaching fraternity to receive the appreciation certificate and cash prize from Excellency. First we call in Adan, son of Arivichudar, Assistant Professor, Department of Nutrition and Dietetics, for securing 571 out of 600 in 12th standard CBSE. Next, we Gokula Kannan, son of Mrs. N. Sumati, NMR, Controller of Examinations, Periyar University, for securing 569 out of 600 in 12th standard state board. Next, A. Mitran, son of Arumugam, Section Officer, Register Office, Periyar University, for securing 493 out of 500 in 10th standard central board. Finally, K. Vakshra Pramesh, daughter of Dr. Kannan, Professor, Department of Zoology, Periyar University, for securing 472 out of 500 in 10th standard state board.
Moving forward, we call Institutions Innovation Council team members for achieving 4-star rating for the IIC calendar year 2021-22, 22-23 to receive the memento and certificate of appreciation. Dr. T. Pongodi Vijayakumar, Professor and Head, Department of Food Science and Nutrition. Dr. I. Lawrence Arokeraj, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science. Dr. P. Madheswaran, Assistant Professor, Department of Energy Science and Technology. Dr. V. Manju, Associate Professor, Department of Biochemistry. Dr. G. Yoganandan, Professor, Department of Management Studies. Dr. K. Aragiri Swami, Assistant Professor, Department of Statistics. Dr. M. Surya Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Management Studies. Dr. T. Paranivel, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics. Dr. K. Sindhu, Assistant Professor, Department of English. Dr. R. Mageswaran, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology. We thank Excellency and others for gracing this felicitation.
Thank you. Honorable Governor Chancellor of Tamil Nadu, a scholar par excellence, is known for his doubling up the peace in the country. Born in Patna, stood up as an IPS officer in the Kerala cadre in 1976. He has been into the journalism for a while before he joined in the administrative service. During his tenure in CBI and IB, his role as an interlocutor is remarkable. His service as a chairman of Joint Intelligence Committee in Prime Minister Office and as a deputy advisor in National Security Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India is prominent. Being served as a governor of Nagaland for 2 years, he has assumed charge as the governor of Tamil Nadu in 2021. As a chancellor, he had many visions for growth and improvement of higher education in Tamil Nadu. He has been a guiding force for the Vice Chancellors in Tamil Nadu and organized annual meetings of Vice Chancellors with educational experts for implementing various development measures in the universities. Now, Honorable Governor Chancellor will deliver the presidential address.
Respected Professor Dr. R. Jagannathan, Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Ashok, Dr. K. Tangavel, Dr. R. Rajalakshmi, Dr. G. Yoganandan, Dr. K. Jayaraman, distinguished faculties, resource persons, members of Senate and Syndicate, my dear students, friends from the media. I would like to thank Professor Jagannathan, the Vice Chancellor, for organizing this G20 related one-day seminar. Under his leadership, the university has been making definitive progress, which are very obvious in the various ranking and recognition that the university has been receiving. Even in G20, Periyar University has played significant role. This university has held several events related to G20, and today is one such. In the day-long seminar, many eminent resource persons have shared their ideas, their thoughts, deliberated upon the various segments of New Delhi leadership declarations, and I'm sure it must have been highly enriching for all of you. While all these deliberations on specifics, which are very, very crucial, must have given you insight into the problems, various problems confronting the world, and also the way forward. I would like to share with you the broad context of it. Why are we holding G20 related seminars again and again and again? You all know that G20 in the mid-90s, it was formed essentially by the large economies for collective and coordinated response to economic crisis. And in the first decade of the present millennia, when the economic meltdown happened, this problem got greater salience. And then they realized that these problems are not just limited to economy. So earlier, G20 meetings used to be held with the finance ministers and the chief of central banks of the member countries. But then it was elevated to the level of heads of government. Prime ministers and presidents became these primary stakeholders of the meetings. And it continued. But what unique thing that our country, India, brought to the presidency? When we took over the presidency from Indonesia, we were in a different world. The pandemic had struck the world, had scarred the world. It didn't spare anyone. It took a heavy toll on human lives. Millions and millions perished. Economy had a nosedive. They are struggling to recover. It took a broad spectrum, heavy cost on human life. But it also exposed one thing. It exposed the inadequacy of the world order, the global order, in addressing a problem like a global pandemic, COVID-19. Because when this pandemic struck, the international bodies, including WHO, they knew nothing about it. They were just from time to time making certain speculations and giving some wild advisories. As far as the needy countries, the poor countries, the developing countries, they were resource-strapped. They didn't have access to medicines. They didn't have access to those resources to absorb the shock that this pandemic had created. And so it was realized that the problems of the world are not merely economic problems. There are far many other problems as well, which are very, very important, which are of existential concern. And all these problems must be addressed. And the existing international framework of United Nations and the multilateral entities like World Bank and IMF, they were grossly inadequate to address the problems, not only a pandemic, climate. We all have been talking about climate change, climate consequences of Earth heating up. But there has been mostly blame game. Who is more responsible, who is less? As far as the substantive action to address the problems, these were missing. So the present or existing world order, existing forums, international forums and multilateral forums, they were inadequate to address it. Take the case of poverty. We know that a large section of the world large number of people in the world are underfed, undernourished. They face a starvation-like situation. Now this poverty, which has a much wider implications, increasingly, even the affluent world, they started realizing the consequence of it, because the poor and underfed and hungry were not limited to their own land. Poverty and hunger creates its own problem, and the spillover effect started being felt on other countries, advanced countries. And they started feeling the heat of it. So poverty and hunger was not just a problem of a distance, because the distant problem was going to hit them. It started hitting them. So this problem had to be addressed. Climate crisis, we all know, but while addressing the broader climate crisis, how to check the heating up? Meanwhile, natural disasters. Disasters have been happening off and on with more frequency and greater virulence. And when it has struck, and the people are hit, and they are hit severely, the instrument or the mechanism, the response to it is highly uneven. There are many countries who do not have the capacity or the resilience, and no one knows who will be hit. And we know that there are capacities here and there located in the world, but if pooled together, we can have a greater resilience to deal with the disaster crisis. So host of issues, women. We have been talking about women empowerment. But the fact is, and even this presentation shows how in coming decades, the problem of poverty, problem of undernourishment, and all related problems, the women will be the worst victim. They are not only victim of war, they are also victim of all this climate change which is happening, victim of poverty, victim of pandemic, victim of everything. They are at the receiving end. So how do we address this? And so when G20 presidency came to India, India gave it a fundamental change. It reoriented the whole direction of G20. Because first is, the G20 we all know is a country, is a group of people and the countries which are fairly rich, fairly capable, powerful, economically powerful, otherwise powerful. So if India succeeds in driving this message to this body can be an effective multilateral institution to transform the world for a safer and better future. And so what India started doing from the beginning, first of all, it made it a people-centric presidency. What does it mean? You know, all over the world, the governance has been the prerogative of the governments, and the governments, they believe that they know what is good for the people, and they come up with policies and plans. People's involvement in problem solving is not much encouraged. Now this model, India has realized and disproved it. So India started, if you look at the transformations which have been happening in this country on all these forums I will come to, these offer an example, an illustration for the rest of the world that look, if this experiment can succeed in India, can it not succeed in the larger world? Take the case of pandemic. How did India manage the pandemic? When pandemic struck, the prediction was minimum 70 to 80 million Indians will die. Because we didn't have resources. And it was a fact. But then, how did we address this problem? The problem that we addressed, and this became a model for the rest of the world. First, when people are locked in their houses, they are not able to move out, and it happened all over the world. People need to be fed. People must have basic food. And so India had already started in 2014-15 itself a project called Digital India. The Digital India, with digital technology being taken to the last man, and another was Jan Dhan account. Every household to have an account, bank account, even zero account. Now this, a trinity of Jan Dhan account, which is financial inclusion, and now, we have more than 50 crores Jan Dhan accounts. And the good thing is, nearly half of them, we're talking about women empowerment, this also is, I'll come to, nearly half of them, I won't say more than 47% of them is women accounts. So, account holding, mobile and Aadhaar. These three linked. We had food. Food were there in our silos thanks to our agricultural scientists and farmers. We had food, and countries which have faced famine and they have faced a starvation, not necessarily because they didn't have food, they had a problem of food distribution. So what India did? India began targeted, knowing, yes, we know who all are, delivering food. And we started to about 80 crore people started getting, and they continue getting. So the food problem, as far as the basic need is concerned, it is met. There was hardly any case of any pilferage, because the system became by and large transparent and foolproof. While providing the food, other necessities, like health. Health is also a need. So when Ayushman Bharat was launched, it was launched before, with assurance that every family will have, eligible family will have a coverage of up to 5 lakhs rupees treatment. The family didn't have to worry much about where to go and get the money. There were other measures for the health. We had the vaccines. Initially, there were many people who were skeptical, many people and countries, but now it is proved that ours is among the best vaccines in the world. We delivered the vaccine. When we discovered the vaccine, when we invented the vaccines, the question was to vaccinate the people. Over 1 billion people to be vaccinated. And then, While on the one hand we have started producing vaccine, on the other hand our people, our scientists, they also came up with an app, COVID app. COVID app uploaded on mobile, everyone has mobile. Everyone vaccinated, immediately through the COVID, within seconds the person gets the vaccinated certificate. It helps the person's movement, boarding the flight, boarding the train, moving out, I am vaccinated, I don't have to face the problem. Having the vaccine, getting the people vaccinated, not once but twice, and in some cases even the third doses. This a smooth operation became an shining example for the world that look, India could do that. India could deliver the food to the people, provide assistance for health through several schemes, including Ayushman, develops the vaccines and delivers the vaccines, get the people vaccinated in record time, so smartly, so smoothly, it became a case study. Now, can this experiment be, or could it not be replicated at a higher level for the rest of the world? The world started looking at it. Yes, I think there is a point we should. Take the case of climate. We know that climate crisis cannot be addressed by one country, it has to be collective. But what all India is doing, or India has been doing to address the issue. In 2015, when in the climate summit, Prime Minister took a decision that look, we will move away from this carbon, this fossil fuel, to renewable clean energy. At the time we had not fixed the target as such that by when we will move away completely, but the resolution was very firm. First thing India did, we built an international solar alliance. We looked at the sun, that this sun which has got so much of inexhaustible energy, and there are many countries in the world which are sun rich, can't we tap into that energy? Because if we start looking at it, you start working on it, everything starts becoming cheaper. Initially, solar energy was expensive. It is becoming increasingly cheaper and affordable. So when India formed the International Solar Alliance, there were many skeptics in the world. There were not many countries willing to join. Of course, France was one which came. And it was headquartered in NCR, National Capital Region of Delhi. Today, more than 100 countries are member of it. And our own capacity of solar has gone up more than 20-fold. We are generating almost nearly 70 gigawatts of solar energy today. We were doing just about 10 years back, we were just about less than 3 gigawatt. Not only that, we started moving to other clean energy, renewable energy. So while energy transition, and we have decided by 2030, half of our energy needs will be from clean energy. And of course the target is by 2070, we will have zero carbon emission. As such, India, which accounts for 17% of the world population, our share to carbon emission is less than 5%. Less than 5%. As such, we are a country with very, very less carbon emitting country. But we will reduce that to zero. And we are showing an example how we are moving towards clean energy, non-carbon energy. we have started. Wind, we have started. From waste. And of course, hydrogen is the latest, which is at the nascent stage. Not only energy, when we talk about climate, it affects the fertility of the soil. The soil all over the world is getting more and more infertile. The nutrient value in the soil is reducing sharply, primarily because of excessive use of chemicals and pesticides. Now, excessive use of chemicals and pesticide, it gives you benefit in the short term, but it does damage at a long term. Very, very serious damage. And so India showed the way. We started moving with determination towards natural and organic farming. This natural and organic farming is now catching up all over the country like a fashion and fad. Here in our own state, I have been visiting districts and remote areas, and I can see that revolution. Organic and natural farming. Climate resilient farming. For long we have been doing farming water intensive, paddy. Punjab, which doesn't have much rain. They were known for wheat production. They were the wheat basket of the country. But they also got into paddy, rice, and free electricity. They started pulling water and putting chemical, fertilizer, pesticide. Production got up, shot up. But today, it all declined. The land is fallow. The state which had nearly 3%, 300%, 3 times more than the national average productivity farm, it is today below the national average. Nearly half of it is because of exploitation of the soils. It was not a climate resilient farming, and plus because you need more water, so do underground water, you start pumping up, because for this political freebies, you get free electricity, you pump it, but after all, today or tomorrow, if you do it yourself, a few years later you face it. And this is what happened in just about less than 3 decades. It didn't take long. Less than 3 decades, table went down, soil became infertile. So when we talk climate resilient, means the area where we have less water, why don't we go for producing those grains which need less water? And that is when millet came. Millet. India gave the push. And we are the largest millet producing country in the world, and that's what I believe, I'm told. And we have started encouraging the world. And the international, the UN also realized it, they also adopted it as a year of the millet. And here in our own state, I find it is catching up. People, our farmers, our organic, natural farmers are taking in a very big way. I have visited some farms in South Tamil Nadu, which is less water. I visited a farm in Ramnathpuram. There are other farms also, but just one farm I am quoting. I found it's a water-starved area, but I find young people, young couple, both of them are IITians. They did IIT from IIT Madras. They were working in some software companies, getting good salary, good money. They abandoned that, they came, they picked up a piece of land, they developed it. They put a dairy to manure the field, take the dairy product, and started millet cultivation. In 10 years, they have more than 50 employees working with them. They are happy. I find there are many cases. Climate resilient farming. Now these are all the ways which India is showing to the world. In disaster resilience, now we have proved to the world that look, we have the capacity. Earlier everyone we used to look up to Japan because Japan is highly earthquake prone. And we also learned from them. They are very advanced. We learned from them. But disaster response is not just relief or rescue. It is also rehabilitation. Now, over the years, we have established a credible reputation of India being capable of providing disaster relief, rescue relief and rehabilitation. We are also helping the countries in the need, other countries. We know here and there, off and on, you would be reading in the newspaper how Indian disaster relief people have gone in foreign countries and they have been helping. Many countries are coming forward to India to sign MOU, to have a coordinated disaster relief response and also to develop disaster resilient infrastructure. Because what damage happens, the life lost, but the damage that happens to the infrastructure, it kills the economy. A building destroyed, a road destroyed, an airport destroyed, a dam destroyed. It doesn't take, it takes a lot of time and resources to rebuild it. So how to build a disaster resilient infrastructure? So now, world is coming to India and they are forming this disaster resilient infrastructure alliance. In climate, again, we are walking the talk. When it comes to poverty alleviation, you know, some months back, data has been released that in the last less than a decade, over 13.5 crores Indians have been lifted out of multidimensional poverty. How did this happen? And here is also linked with this women empowerment. This happened, again as I said right at the beginning, the Jam Trinity. When we started believing in the power of the common man, power of our folks in the villages, our young men and women, all that is needed is to give them the confidence that you can do it and give them the assistance that they need. Among the various schemes, Mudra loan started. We started Mudra loan. Almost collateral free. 50,000 to 10 lakhs. You start something. A business does not necessarily mean a large infrastructure or a large setup. A business can be even someone in the remote starts selling snacks and tea. That also is a business. It is these micro revolutions that revolutionizes and lifts the country up. Today, over 40 crore people have taken Mudra loan. Over 40 crore. Average loan is about 75,000 rupees. Many people of the erstwhile, the old thinking would say, 50,000, 75,000 what? But this 75,000, 50,000 is bringing about the revolution. 23 lakhs crore money has been dispersed in Mudra loan. 40 crore people taken 23 lakhs crore. They are all doing it wherever they are, in their colonies, in the streets, in their homes. Small. And all this are working towards removing poverty. You know, for long the world has had, even today they have a GDP centric. We also, when we say G20, 85% of the global GDP is with this. What does it mean? A country with a higher, US, United States of America, is the country with the highest GDP. But you also know that there are large number of people who are homeless. They have no place to stay. They have no access to health care. They are living in utter destitution. This GDP centric, GDP means a country, how much wealth the country has, but whether this wealth is, there is some amount of equitability, that yes, we don't have dire inequality. You have people, everyone must have access to the basic ingredients of a healthy citizenship, a healthy life. So the shift from the GDP to the human-centric development, leading to all these schemes where a person, even an illiterate woman in the village, chooses to set up a tea shop, has got access and gets the money because has the money. As far as the women empowerment is concerned, right at the beginning, for long, if you look at the 2011 census in our country, we have more men than women. Demography. Inequality in demography. It's not that women were not born, but we all know that women become victims, they don't survive. In some parts of the country, there used to be female feticide. The girl children used to be killed in the womb itself. And even when the child is born, a girl child, neglected. If the girl child falls sick, there is a discrimination, the son and the daughter. Women used to die during pregnancy. So, when the schemes, several schemes including, and today when I'm talking about the demography, though the latest census has not been done fully and results not yet, but the survey, credible survey shows that we have bridged the demographic gap, and there are indications that perhaps there are more number of women today than men. As and when the data will come, we'll get to know very definitively, but there are indications. But when Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, when that Save the Daughters, Educate the Daughters program started, it was not a slogan. A lot of supplementary, enabling environment had to be created. When you say that Beti Bachao, the mother has to be, while she is pregnant, there has to be adequate nutrition, there has to be adequate health care. So when the Poshan Abhiyan started, and when the tracking is started of every pregnant woman, mother, and guiding them, why yes, this is the time, this is the regular checkup and supporting nutritional support. And post-delivery, the care. When you talk about Beti Padhao, is everybody likes, okay, my daughter should be educated. But if there is no toilet in the school, how can my daughter go? This we didn't think of. We were insensitive. We didn't create enabling environment, we kept talking about women empowerment. But when the toilet campaign began, every home to have a toilet, and we got it. The country in 2016, we had a dubious distinction of more than 60% of Indians who are going for open defecation. Today we are open defecation free. It may be a different matter that somebody out of habit could be going somewhere in rural areas, I do not know. As I was told, we just saw in the presentation that though the cooking gas is given in every house, 47% are still, I think, using firewood or something. Yes, there may be other issues. The beginning has been made. So when you create the enabling environment. When you ensure that the lady of the house doesn't have to go out to collect the firewood, doesn't have to go to fetch water, so the access of cooking gas, access to potable water is made available, the revolution will happen. Today we have over 10 crores households have got the cooking gas. Portable water, drinking water to houses, we are now nearing saturation. Homelessness. Here also there is a women empowerment, because 30 million houses which have been built, over 30 million houses, more than 3 crores, homeless people got the house. In the ownership, in all the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, when they get the house, ownership is with the women of the house. Men also are put, but women has to be there. So the women becomes the co-owner of the house. Women is not just a tenant or somebody living in the house. A sense of empowerment. Various areas which were closed to the women, they are now opened, including our defense forces. In our military, the women were only for health, nursing, medical. Today, our daughters are flying fighter jets. All the doors are open to women. So you create the enabling environment, even for the entrepreneurship, a special provision for the women entrepreneur, a special financial assistance for the women entrepreneur. And as I said, through the Jan Dhan account, we have ensured financial inclusion. Financial inclusion. The women are empowered today much more than they were before. Now, this has graduated to the next level. Rather than we're talking about women empowerment, we are talking about women-led development. Women must be at the leading positions, at the leadership positions. And while in the rest of the domain environment, the gates are open, environment is being created to enable them to come forward, and they are coming forward. The highest level of lawmaking, legislative body. Now, the parliament has already made the law. Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, the women empowerment bill, with the reservations for women in parliament and all the assemblies. It is being worked out soon. As soon as it is all done, it will be operationalized. But the women's say in law making is also ensured. Now, this is becoming a model for the world. World is looking at in India. When India talks about an inclusive growth, inclusive development, when we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, what we call it here, Yadu Mure, Yavarum Kelir, because we are a family. This is not reflected in the present world order. Present world order is based on wealth and military power. It was set up, it was created after the Second World War by the powerful countries, by the victor countries. But they have created all the problems. We didn't talk about climate 60, 70 years ago. Nobody talked about climate. Today it is a very issue. About the conflict, it was created to resolve the conflict, to say there will be peaceful world. It has not created a peaceful world. The war is happening all over. Some visible wars, some invisible wars. Somewhere it cools down, some other place it erupts. And it affects the entire globe. And who is the worst affected? The poor countries. Because the world order is not inclusive. Imagine, even in G20, the whole large African continent except South Africa, they have been at the margin of world consciousness. Those who think that they are the one who are the guardians of the world, they never thought about it. It took India to ensure that African Union becomes a member of the G20, this body. Inclusive world for the good of all. This approach, this vision of India to create a safer world, treating the whole world as a family, as we said, one earth, one family, one future. This approach the world has to adopt. And my young friends, all of you have a special responsibility. G20 presidency will be ending in hardly about a week or 10 days on the 30th of November. But this movement has to go on. India has shown the world how to create a better world, how to create a safer world. We are working. We are not that we have achieved perfection, but we have made a solid beginning and we are seeing the result. We are seeing the result in every aspect. Even when this COVID hit the economy and the world economies, especially the advanced economies, went into recession-like situation, India has been growing, and today we all know that India is the fastest growing large economy. Why? It is because of the structural reforms that we did. Today, our financial sector is robust. Our banks don't have huge burden of non-performing assets. They are in a position to give credit easily to the people, those who are willing to come forward. Today, our every sector, be it health, be it education, be it infrastructure, every sector, there have been fundamental reforms, structural reforms, bold reforms. And it is these bold reforms which are bringing the result. It is these unsung heroes in the remote areas, their creativity, their work. It is this creativity of our young men and women like you that India, in 10 years back, when we didn't have even 500 startup, we have today more than 125,000 startup. This is being done by people like you. This revolution in individual enterprise, collectively to shape the destiny of the nation and the destiny of the world. Now, when we have this vision, when we have given this vision to the world, that world is a family, we must not think in terms of rivalry and competition, unhealthy competition, either me or not. We have to grow and develop together. If this message has to effectively go to the world, we have to make ourselves stronger. We have to make ourselves more capable. We have to make this country a developed country, a fully developed country, a self-reliant country. And we have set a target now. We have set a target that by 2047, when the country would be celebrating centenary of its independence, India must be a fully developed country, a self-reliant country, a country to which the world will look at as a friend, as a guide, as a helping hand in distress. Because in Indian DNA, there is no imperialism. In Indian DNA, there is nothing like, no Darwinism, that okay, I prosper, you perish. In Indian DNA, seva. And that we have demonstrated time and again, even in the COVID. When we had not yet vaccinated our own people fully, we have started sharing the vaccine with the rest of the world. When the developed countries developed the vaccines, they raised the price of vaccines. They started hoarding vaccines. And we know that there were countries, there were vaccine scarcity. Even those who were willing to pay, they didn't have the vaccine available because those countries had hoarded many times more than their requirement. But it was India which shared the vaccine with over 150 countries in the world, of which 100 countries it was given free. Because this is India. This is in our DNA. And when India grows, the world looks at India with a lot of expectation. There is no apprehension like others. So, it is your responsibility to carry the spirit of G20. The spirit of G20 is to make this country a fully developed, self-reliant and in a sustainable way. And that is why various missions like lifestyle for environment, sustainable environment. This is for all of us to practice in our day-to-day life. It is the micros. When integrated together, it brings the macro change, macro revolution. The world, the whole country looks at you with a lot of hope, a lot of expectation. And I'm sure it will carry the spirit. It will take the world forward. It will take the country forward. Because when you move forward, and that you will do with your own personal growth, because you grow, your family grows, society grows, the nation grows. The growth of nation is not a magic somewhere, it is in growth of each one of you. So grow fully. That should be the spirit of all of you. I can do, that should be the spirit. No challenge is insurmountable. And I will do it. Once again, I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor for organizing it and this opportunity to be with you this evening. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Excellency. As we arrive to an end, we invite Nodal Officer G20 Program, Periyar University, Dr. K. Jayaraman to propose vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. His Excellency, the Governor of Tamil Nadu and the Chancellor of Periyar University, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Registrar, COE, Deputy Secretary, Syndicate members, Principals, revered resource persons, heads of the department, faculty members, research scholars and students. It is an honor to be the part of this wonderful event. We enjoyed the every moment, every drop of the nectar of knowledge splashed at this event. On behalf of our Periyar University, I profusely thank our His Excellency Governor Chancellor for having graced this occasion and delivered the candid and insightful presidential address, touching upon all the G20 themes and our own values of our India. We learned a lot from you, sir. Definitely, our students will change the world and shape the world in a positive manner, sir. Enjoy the little things, for one day you may look back and realize that there are the big things. Started Robert Frost. A small step towards sustainable development will sustain the economy, nation and the society. I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor who has paved the way for disseminating the knowledge related to G20 throughout the year to all the students and research scholars. Thank you, sir. Sir has helped us to learn more about Indian knowledge system. Thank you for your kind motivation, sir. I thank our registrar, sir, for being with us in carrying out all innovative ideas for the betterment of our students. Thank you very much, sir. I thank COE for his constant support. I sincerely thank Dr. B.S. Madhukar, former advisor to NAC, for his inaugural address. I thank Dr. C. Babu, psychiatrist from Salem, for his thought-provoking inaugural address. I profusely thank all the speakers from our own university and other institutions for having explored all the themes of G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration. Surely, this has opened new vistas for the development of our nation, G20 countries and the entire world. I thank Dr. Ashok, Dr. Rangalachmi, Dr. Tangavel, Dr. Maragadam, Dr. Mageshwari, Dr. Sanmuga Vadivu, Dr. A. Ilangovan, Dr. P. Nasini, Dr. K. Krishnakumar, Dr. G. Yoganandan, Dr. R. Ramesh, Ms. Swadi for delivering the perspective analysis of the G20 Leaders Declaration. And I thank all our heads of the departments, deans, faculty members for their untiring help for conducting the program successfully. I thank the non-teaching staff, support staff, media persons and Young India, the students and security and police personnel. Thank you is the best prayer that anyone could say. Says Alice Walker. Selvathul Selvam, Sevichelvam, Achelvam, Selvathul Ellam Thalai. We have enjoyed the wealth of listening. Thank you, Honorable Governor Chancellor Sir. Thank you. Once again, I thank everybody. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Stand all for national anthem.
जनगण मन नायक जय हे बारक वाक्य विदाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलति तरंगा दब शुभ नामे जाहे दब शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे दब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत वाक्य विदाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Virat Kohli, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Mr. Kohli.
Thank you. Great to be here finally. Never been to the office. I told Abhishek I don't want to come to the small office. So he made sure he got a bigger place and a lot more people to meet. But I'm finally here and I'm happy. So yeah, good to see everyone.
I'll get started by asking you that 3 years IPL was in a bubble. You played in the bubble for a long time.
Yeah.
Must have been very, very tough. How does it feel to get back to real cricket with stadium and Chinnaswamy screaming?
It's actually, the first game seemed unbelievable to me. You know, you almost forget the memory of driving to the stadium with so many people outside the ground. And this the one interesting thing Glenn Maxwell said to me after he saw that. He said, I know the situation was unbelievably tough and, you know, everyone was suffering all over. And we had to continue to play, which was, again, for me, quite a difficult period because I was like, this doesn't seem right. Not because there are not people in the stadiums, but in general, you know, everyone's kind of trying to just get by, and here we're playing a sport. Just felt odd. So when we returned to normal, that's one thing he said. He said, I can't believe we played in empty stadiums for so long. The fans are the essence of the game, especially seeing the passion of the fans of RCB. IPL always has been a special tournament. So when I saw those people outside the stadiums and the lead up, I got all the videos of the lead up to the game as well, like the queues for tickets and the frenzy that was in the city. I was buzzing. I was like, I just want to get to Bangalore. And when we landed as well, when they saw me at the airport, I could just see happiness in their eyes to see me back playing for RCB in Bangalore. So yeah, it was more like a fairy tale comeback for us. You know, played the perfect game also. But yeah, just the whole atmosphere was something that I realized that day how special it has been to have all those fans cheer for us for so many years, only because we had a situation where we couldn't see any of them. So I had more gratitude and I was very thankful that I have this opportunity to play in front of such amazing fans.
Was it tough for you to be in the bubble?
Personally, it was very tough for me. Not that I like to go out a lot, but just the sense of not being able to step out from certain places, it was confining me in a way that it wasn't healthy at all. Plus, there were many things that were happening in the background when it came to cricket with me, which eventually came to the surface later for everyone to know. So no one knew at the time what I'm going through. And in general, I mean, you know, we had our daughter, and just not being able to take her out and show her the world was also very tough on us. So yeah, the bubble, I don't know how people reacted to it, but personally I was not in a good space in the bubble. And after the bubble as well, I realized, not that, as I said, I'm not hanging out every, you know, going for dinners and, you know, get-togethers or anything. Just the fact that you can go to the lobby area of a hotel and just have a cup of coffee in normalcy, or just sit by the pool and you see random people around you, not, you know, confined spaces, and it was just like, yeah, you're part of everything. Just that bit was so important, and I realized that later. Yeah, the bubble was very difficult.
Let me, for those who are the uninitiated, Virat has a very strong business mind, and I'm going to explore that a bit today. And I, you know, he doesn't believe this, but I said that, you know, leadership in the most tough, you know, being the captain of the Indian team that he has been for the longest time, for so many years, it's one of the most difficult leadership roles available, right? I mean, so much of pressure. So I'm going to ask him a few related questions, but before I get to it, like this team you see, and few of them are watching online who are not in the city, not here. This is the #1 sports, lifestyle, fashion brand in the country. My question that I have for me from the sidelines, what do you see? What is the reason for this journey of Puma and the success?
My heart's beating fast because I've already said it to you backstage. You should sign me at the right time. No. That was just a joke. In all seriousness, you spoke about business, and I know that a lot of hard work goes behind planning, preparation, a forecast of what's going to, you know, be successful in the months to come. That's how we used to plan our structures as well. We always laid down a culture which was going to be healthy. It was never a planning of 7 days, 8 days, 10 days. It was all, I mean, I honestly had a vision of 7 or 8 years for Indian cricket to dominate all over the world. And I knew exactly what needs to be done to get there. So clarity was important, preparation, but the most important thing was commitment. If people who were in that room did not commit to the vision that's laid, it means nothing. And the commitment doesn't happen in front of your boss. The commitment happens when you're by yourself. That's how you create culture. So, and that is where the skill is required to create that much trust, that when you're sitting by yourself, are you still thinking of taking things forward and progressing in a way that your own behaviors, your own ethics, morality, everything comes into play. Because the easiest thing to do is when you're by yourself, is to not align to the vision. And if people are aligning to the vision when you're not watching them, is the real success of leadership, I feel. That's something that I saw happen in the Indian cricket team as well. So, yeah, to see the brand where it is today, some amazing decisions obviously have been taken. When we had this conversation initially, I was with a couple of other brands which were quite prominent in India at the beginning, but they started fading away pretty quickly, and I understood why. Because I gave them a vision which they didn't align to. I told them my career is growing and I want to be able to create something of my own with a big brand in India so that we can grow together. That's how I'll be invested in the business myself, and I'll be thinking about how to take the brand forward rather than just being a face on the billboard with some of the global athletes. That meant nothing to me. So when we started our conversation as well, the first and the